Hey, Rick, what did you eat last night?
Oh my God, I had the best guacamole I've ever had. It was just regular guacamole with a pico de gallo. And then it also had goat cheese and pine nuts mixed in. It was such a great flavor. My friend Emmy took me out to dinner and we got this guacamole, and we also got this really great garden fresh quesadilla, and the vegetables were this garden fresh vegetable quesadilla, and the vegetables were really, really fresh, and they weren't overcooked, which I love the most, because a lot of times in this quesadillas they're just smashed together, and it just came with a little bit of sour cream, which is really nice. And get this, then we got jalapeno cheese cornbread with a cilantro butter. It was so good. So the guac was good, the quesadilla was good, and then that, cornbread cheese, jalapeno cheese cornbread just came in at the end and just blew us all away. It was amazing.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, I love a cilantro butter. Just melted so wonderfully.
Yeah, cilantro butter. That's my favorite part of what you just said there.
Yeah, and it was super subtle because Emmy doesn't like a lot of cilantro. She doesn't like cilantro at all, but it was super subtle. Even she could eat it.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. How about you? What did you eat last night?
I went to my friend Carrie's house, and he made me what was called we called it a no pad thai. So it was supposed to be a no meat pad thai, but it wasn't really pad thai, but it was resembling that. It was he used spiralized zucchini instead of the noodles. And he also spiralized carrot and daikon. So he made these noodles out of zucchini, carrot, and daikon radish, and they were so delicious. And then he made an almond butter sauce and had some beautifully marinated chicken in there. So it wasn't really pad thai as much as it was like a peanut noodle kind of thing. And it was really, really tasty. I liked the spiralized veggies a lot more than I expected to in terms of them being satisfying and feeling like a Thai dish.
What a great thing to use.
It was
brilliant.
Really great.
That's nice.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night. I'm Kate DeVore.
And I am Rick Fiore.
And this is our ongoing conversation about food, health, weight management, and our endeavor to be and stay healthy in a really tasty world.
With love, kindness, and compassion towards ourselves and others.
Today, we're going to catch up about how we did over the holidays in terms of our goals and what our plans are for moving forward and being healthy in the new year. So a little bit about how we did and what we're going to do next. So how were your holidays, Rick?
Oh, they were so lovely, Kate. Thank you for asking. I got to spend some time down at the beach with some friends and my sister, so that always made me happy. Ate a lot of really great food and actually did some resting, which was nice. So it was just lovely. It was warm. It was comfy. Everything I wanted. And over the New Year's, I got to spend time with some good friends who were in from LA. Made some really great meals there. So all in all, I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10 as far as how my holidays have gone.
Wow. I wasn't actually expecting a number. So
I have numbers, Kate.
I'm impressed.
How about you?
Oh, it was lovely. I had such a good time. I was hauling up and down the East Coast. I got to see some really good friends, also eat some really good food. Krista made me fondue.
Fondue.
That's love. I know. And spend time with my mom and see her in a show. And again, more good food with her. And my heart people up in Connecticut, my friends up there that I hang out with for New Year's. So it was lovely. It was really very satisfying. Felt like a lot. I covered a lot in 2 weeks.
You were on the run.
I was on the run, and there were a lot of segments to the trip. And you and I, of course, got to spend some time together in New York.
Yeah.
And that. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that at some point too.
Yeah, that's going to be one of our upcoming episodes, and so that's where we're going next. Just to give you a little preview of what's coming next is coming up this season, third season of You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night. So Kate and I in New York, we spent some time visiting some celebrity chef restaurants, and we have one more we're going to do in Chicago. So we're going to make a really fun episode out of that. Tell you what we ate, who we ate it with, and just give you all reviews of all these celebrity chefs. And then Sarah Kaufman, she's written this really great book called The Art of Grace. She's going to be a guest on our podcast this year. She's going to talk about the role that grace plays in everyday life. So that's going to be super awesome. And then we also are going to have a special guest to talk about cocktails. We're going to have another liquor episode. Isn't that exciting? And
yes, it is.
Let's see what else. Oh, our trip.
Yes, we have a trip that we referred to when we were in Paris. There was another part of that. So you are soon going to get to learn more about that lovely experience. And then we're going to talk about dieting and about a lot of new research that's come up about how your body fights back against dieting and the problems that people who are in a constant cycle of dieting face.
And that's just the first half of the season. Can you believe it?
Not even. And so we're open for ideas or requests or suggestions. So let us know. And of course, while we're talking about it, please subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher.
Pretty much anywhere you get your podcast, subscribe to us, baby.
Email us at youwon'tbelievewhatIate@gmail.com. Visit our webpage. We put lots of stuff up around each episode. Rick does an amazing job maintaining that.
Oh, thank you.
And youwon'tbelievewhatIate.com. And, of course, our very fun Facebook page, You Won't Believe What I Ate. So check us out. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Get us likes. Get us clicks. Get us subscriptions.
Coolness.
So, Rick, how did you do with your goals that you set for maintaining some modicum of health over the holidays?
Modicum. I love that. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, Kate, to give you another number. Oh, my God,
with the numbers. Way to go.
Listen, excuse me, you guys. I'm so congested, so I apologize for that. But 2018, it's the year of numbers. That's all it's going to be, the year of numbers. I did well. So
He's joking.
My goal was to really make sure that I maintained my exercise daily, getting on the treadmill, getting out for a really great, strong walk. And I did really well. I was there like 90% of the time. And what I really...
That's amazing.
Thank you. And what I discovered this time is it made me so much more sensitive about the amount of food I was taking in. Because I was thinking, oh my gosh, we ate so much last night. Oh my gosh, I have to go walk. And I'd literally be thinking, did I walk enough to work off all of that food? And quite often it was no. So I'd work a little bit more because I had much more of a goal to be hungry every time I sat down. As I thought that was interesting when I was working. I'm like, oh, I really want to be hungry, really want to be hungry. So I was really pleased because I felt like then it actually made me more conscious of when I was eating, of not eating as much because I knew, you have to go work this off, Rick. Like I was in this sort of mode of remembering you have to work it off, remembering you're going to work it off. And I was really in that mode for like a good month. It was really sort of great. So I feel good. Yeah.
Way to go.
Thank you. How about you?
I mostly did quite well. My primary goal was to minimize the drive-by snacking, particularly up in Connecticut, which it's so funny.
Drive-by snacking.
I know. I saw Krista, my friend Krista, who's a friend of the podcast, and we'll be hearing more from probably later this season also.
Hi, Krista.
Up in the Catskills, and we were going through all these cute little quaint shops, and one of them had cheese out. And I did not take a piece of the cheese. I walked by it and didn't take it, which was, you know how I am with cheese. Now, I will say that I had fondue the night before, preceded by an appetizer of a small cheese plate. So I was cheesed out, but that usually wouldn't stop me. It required a little discipline. And as we walked by it, Krista also didn't take one. And she brought up the drive-by snacking thing. She remembered it from the episode. So
funny.
For the most part, I did well. I failed miserably because when I arrived in Connecticut, there was a bowl out on their counter of that frickin' Moose Munch. Do you know that? It's just the best
Moose
thing.
Munch from Harry and David. Yes.
No, it's such an asshole, that Moose Munch, because it's impossible to avoid. So the good news is I ate all of it in the first day, basically. So then it wasn't there anymore.
Well, good. See, that's the only thing you can do, Kate. Only thing to be done. Get it out of the room.
Solve that problem right there.
No worries.
Yeah, but otherwise I was actually really good about the drive-by snacking. So that was
great.
Good. And my mom and I had a cheese plate every day. Every day. It was only 2 or 3 days, and I did exactly what I said I was going to do, which was I took a small helping of each of the cheeses and other goodies. And so it was great.
Wow, that's really strong.
I know.
Congratulations. I so respect like a small portion of the cheese.
I know. And my mom made so much incredibly good food, and I was much more moderate than I would have liked. Let's just put it that way. So that has to be success, right?
That is success. I agree. Well done, Captain. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
One of the other things I wanted to ask you about is, so prior to the holidays, you had done a cleanse, right?
Yes, I had.
And you had posted a lot about that on the Facebook. For those of you that follow the cleanse, I just thought it was so great. So tell me about the cleanse. How did it work out for you? What do you think?
Thank you. It was so good. And I need to look at my calendar and get another something on there at some point soon. I think I might only do 1 week because it's going to be in closer proximity to the last one. And I'm not as dirty, so I don't need as much cleansing.
Dirty!
Because that's another thing is I drank a lot less alcohol than I have in the past over the holidays as well. So that was
nice.
Good. Partly peer pressure because the people I was around were drinking less. So I find that's a big factor for me.
That's good.
So anyway, I noticed so much improvement in how I feel. You know, it was awesome, and I really kickstarted some better habits, and I reset my hedonistic set point so that I am craving salads and craving smoothies and stuff like that. And I learned something really interesting about myself that I have yet to figure out what to do with.
Really?
And that is that I respond really well to rigid rules and less well to freedom in terms of moderation and what I eat. And that...
You just stop, Kate. Just stop right there. I'm not going to have that malarkey on this podcast.
Yeah. So I don't know what to do about that. And so it puts me in a position of wanting to come up with some rules that are followable and don't feel restrictive and yet are still hard and fast rules. So the key is to put the loopholes into the rules so that they're manageable, but because if they're too much, like I can't say I'm never going to have X, like that can't be a rule.
Right.
So I'm still working through what those are. You know, and I know that we've talked about this on here a lot of times before, that philosophy of eat this, it's good for you, as opposed to don't eat this, it's bad for you.
Right.
So focusing on inclusion at least as much as exclusion is a big thing. And that's really what I think part of what the cleanse kind of got me back to.
Well, congrats on the cleanse.
Thank you. How'd you do on it? I know you did a version of it as well. It wasn't the exact same thing.
No, it wasn't. And I was really, I've never been big into cleansing, but I really wanted to do something. I really wanted to be part of what Kate was doing. And so I thought, what did I really want to deal with? So I had made some ideas that I was going to cleanse. A part of my cleanse was definitely going to be no fried foods, which I actually did really well with for the most part. So that was really good. But the big thing I had put on there was no soda because I had been off soda for a long time, and I just got in the habit of it again over the last year and a half. And I really don't like it. And it's just, the more you read about it, it's just so terrible for you. So that was really my goal, was to eliminate soda and replace that with other liquids, which I did. And I was just walking around the apartment yesterday thinking, I'm so glad you did that cleanse, because it really broke me of that soda habit. Like, I'm a big Diet Coke fan. And I was so grateful because I just feel so much better not having that gunk in my system. And I thought, this is the whole idea of a cleanse that we had talked about a little bit before too, which is it doesn't always have to be a large thing. It can be a very small focus.
Totally.
Like, I'm just going to get rid of this out of my life for the next month. Mm-hmm. And so that's where that's one rule that's really good for me. Like, it's always worked when I say no soda. It's generally worked except for this year and a half lapse I've had. My other rule is around meat, because as everyone knows, I'm a pescatarian. So I've had a very hard rule about not eating meat, and that always started out very early on because it was more of a disgusting factor, because I got sick from meat and I didn't eat meat for a long time. And now it's turned into a rule primarily for a humanitarian reason, right, for the poor animals. So I still eat fish. But that's a rule that I respond really well to.
Because who cares about fish?
Their faces aren't cute.
Have you seen that thing, though, about the fish getting petted? Like, have you seen it on Facebook?
Yes, that's creepy.
Oh, I know.
So weird. So that brings me back to, like, what are the two rules that have always worked for me? And I have been thinking so much about rules because I was really thinking, gosh, Rick, you set these two rules about meat and then about soda, and you've managed to stick with them. So I'm tossing around, what do the rules look like for me? Because when I think about what I want to do, I need some rule, which, as you know, it comes back to my big issue, which is about quantity. Like, overall, I actually am pleased with my diet overall, right, throughout the course of a year. But my big struggle is the quantity, that I never stop, eating soon enough. And And I also eat when I'm not hungry. I just eat because I want to eat, or, I'm definitely a stress eater. I'm an excitement eater. I'm a sad eater. I'm an every kind of eater. So I'm going to be looking this year for something like that. So if anyone out there has any suggestions, by all means, throw them at me. But I'm going to be creating something around that.
I've come up with a couple that I feel... I'm still not entirely sure. So I feel at this point more comfortable talking about the rules that I'm going to try on or that I'm thinking about. I think my rules might need an audition period because I am actually, it's so funny, but I am really a rule follower. So if I have a rule, I will follow it as long as I have bought into the rule.
You really are. I get that about you.
I really am. But I'm also pretty arbitrary about what rule I'll buy into. So it's not just any rule. I have to buy into it. So there you go. So I take this seriously of coming up with rules. So one that I'm auditioning right now is that at least one meal a day has to be primarily based in raw vegetables. So that could be smoothie or salad, ideally both. And my smoothies are very, very kale intensive. So I get a huge amount of kale in a smoothie. So
I love that rule. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so at least one. And I just subscribed to this thing called Imperfect Produce that exists on the West Coast and Chicago, to my knowledge.
Do tell.
You subscribe and you get, I'm getting one small box of organic produce per month. And it's imperfect because there's an arrangement between this company and farmers where they take all the imperfect produce that farms can't sell to grocery stores because it's too big, too small, too blemished, too whatever. And they deliver it to you at a huge discount. So it's a really great value. And I'm going to, we're going to put my referral link on the website. Can you do that, Rick?
Fun, yeah.
Thank you. And so if you want to join it, if you're in an area where they have it, you'll get $10 off. And so will I if you use my link.
Hey, Djaniss, can you make a note? Can you write that down, please?
Djaniss, put the drink down.
Jesus.
All right. We'll speak to her again.
She's still on vacation.
Exactly. I know. She's got the parasol in her coffee. I'm not sure what's going on. And so you can customize your box. And so I'm purposefully getting, like I got daikon radishes in the last box on purpose just to make myself do something with them. So that's one of my ways of getting more vegetables in.
That's a great idea.
And it's only once a month because it's just me. And so it's making me use veggies and get creative about veggie use because I'm not going to let them rot.
And that exactly, I was just going to say, that ties well into a rule that you and I tend to practice a lot, which is don't let stuff rot. Use it up. Don't throw it away. Like that's a rule that
don't waste food. That's
really
right.
Yeah.
I'm obsessive about that. Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. Did you know?
Hey, Rick, did you know that a honeybee has to tap 2 million flowers in order to make 1 pound of honey?
No, that seems exhausting.
I know. And as we know, the honeybees are at real risk of extinction, which is going to change life as we know it, basically, if that happens.
Not only are they,
that doesn't happen.
Not only at the risk of extinction, we're working them to death.
Exactly. Did you also know, speaking of honey, that it's one of the only foods that will never go bad?
I did not know that.
Honey is amazing. Totally.
Love it.
Another one I'm toying with is, and it sounds super annoying as I say it out loud, so I might not be able to do it, but I'm considering counting my calories again. I did that for that whole period where I lost all that weight, and while I was sort of maintaining it, every single calorie I counted. And that's one of the reasons that those apps, like the fitness tracker apps that Krista was telling us about, I preferred to just do it manually, mentally myself, because it's also fun for me. That's the part of me where my dad and I used to play those logic games at dinner, like how many 12 stamps in a dozen. And,
oh my God.
So I like the mental arithmetic of working stuff out, the mental gymnastics of doing that kind of thing and keeping track. And so I'm toying with trying that one on.
All right. That'll be a big one. That's always a big one for me. I've never enjoyed that. All right.
I did it on the cleanse.
Yeah, you were super good about it. Yeah, that's
and
great.
It was more, I didn't have a calorie limit on the cleanse. I just was keeping track. And that's the thing. When I was doing it before, I was aiming for 1,200 calories a day, which I now think is ridiculously low since I was working out so much, but whatever. So now it's not so much that I'm thinking about imposing a limit on it necessarily, but rather simply the act of counting it is sort of my version of one of those apps.
Mm-hmm. I get that. That's great.
We'll see.
When does the audition process start?
Well, now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I love that idea of auditioning it. Mm-hmm. If I'm thinking there's one or two that I don't think I'm really auditioning them right now. I'm sort of just looking at headshots right now. So the first one is going to be this idea of leaving the table still hungry.
Huh.
I'm not sure what that looks like.
What if you don't get to the table hungry? What do you do then?
All is lost, Kate. All is lost.
Okay.
Valid question. Valid question, see? So I'm thinking about that. And then the other thing I'm thinking about is this idea of really having a particular bowl or plate I use every day, and my portion goes in that. And then I don't really eat anything beyond that. That really trying to limit myself to one serving of something. Where sometimes, particularly if at home, I'll go back and keep having more and more and more of the same thing. So I'm looking for something around this idea of limiting this, just letting it be one serving, and it gets put away right away. So those are the two things I'm thinking about.
That's good.
You know?
I have one around alcohol.
Oh, sweet.
Which we've talked about is the biggest issue. So for me, my general eating at home, I feel like the cleanse got me back on track in terms of cooking healthy. I got an Instant Pot for my birthday in November, which is changing a lot of how I'm cooking and just making me get back into cooking and cooking more. And we've discussed before, I love the challenge of creatively cooking delicious, healthy things. So I'm back in that mode now, which is great. And it's winter. It's freaking cold in Chicago. You know, it's cold everywhere. But, you know, so I feel like my day-to-day at-home cooking is cool. It's when I go out that's an issue, and alcohol. Those are my two major things. So for the alcohol, my current one is to not buy any hard liquor for home unless I'm having people over or a party or something like that. Like, it's, again, so there's my loophole to make it reasonable. But like just for my day-to-day consumption, I'm not just going to keep booze in the house, because if I don't have it, I won't drink it. I am going to have wine, but I do find wine affects me differently than hard alcohol the next day. So that's one that I'm working with so far. It's going well so far. It's been going well for a couple months.
That's really great. I love that idea of not keeping anything in the house. It just makes things so much easier, particularly the hard liquor. I, after the holidays, really had to get clear on what my rule was as far as drinking, because I've just been drinking more than I ever have because of a particular election that happened. So I've got to sort of get that back on track this year. So one of the things I've been working with, and it's going well so far, people, 1 week in, is there's 3 days a week that I allow myself to consume alcohol. And I like that number. It maybe gives me an evening during the week, whether I'm at home or I'm out with friends. And then it gives me a day or two on and around the weekend is how I'm thinking about it. And so that's a sort of a rule I am auditioning currently right now. And I'll let you know if it gets cast in the coming months. But I like the idea of it because, it's just so easy sometimes at home. Get a glass of heat, get a glass of wine with your dinner, or get a glass of wine and sit in front of the TV. And for me, it just really becomes a habit that I get into that just needs to be broken.
Yeah, I'm definitely avoiding the glass of wine that's just a habit and that's just because.
Yes.
But I'm not willing to make a rule that I don't drink while I'm cooking and stuff like that. So sometimes
you do like to drink while you cook. Yeah, totally.
I do. I like to have
Kate
my
looks
glass
so
of wine
good
while
when
I
she's
cook.
drinking and cooking. She's good. I really can't multitask like that. Like if I try to drink while I'm cooking, I'll make the drink, but then I'll cook. I'm like, oh, right, the drink.
That does sometimes happen. Again, it's better when it's wine. Like it's always, and sometimes it's true. It'll go untouched for a long time, depending on what's happening. But I love to putter and cook in the kitchen for a long period of time, and having a glass of wine along with that is part of the fun for me.
I actually tend to drink well while food's being prepared while you're preparing it. Don't you think? Whenever you're at your place and you're cooking for me, I'm able to actually drink well while you're preparing food.
My kitchen is set up. I have a really deep counter, so I'm cooking on one side of it, and my guests are sitting on bar stools on the other side of it, having drinks and snacks. That's how it usually works, and watching me cook. So
and you sometimes get the occasional thing to do, grate this, chop that.
That's right. Whenever there's cheese to be grated, that's always a job that I pass off. Absolutely. Yeah.
Good.
Peeling garlic. Yeah.
Oh, garlic. I pulled these. Is that good to move on? Are you cool? I was thinking.
Oh, yeah.
So what I thought is I like Michael Pollan. So he's Michael Pollan. I'm sure you know him and have seen him. He's a contributing writer for the New York Times, everyone. And his big books were, he wrote In Defense of Food, which is one of my favorites. He wrote The Omnivore's Dilemma, I think like in early 2000s. And he also wrote The Botany of Desire. And he's really big about a plant-based diet. And he's really big about how you eat and how we eat and how important it is to create a sustainable food system. So he has these rules, which I think are sort of fun, which I think would be great to throw out that relate to food consumption. His first one is, don't eat anything your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize as food. I think that's sort of fun because it always makes me think about my grandparents. So I like that.
That's really sweet.
Yeah. The next one is, don't eat anything with more than 5 ingredients or ingredients you can't pronounce.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good one.
Yeah. I'm sure he doesn't mean don't make a curry with 10 spices in it, right?
Correct,
That's
yes.
surely not what he means.
This is
he
like
means a packaged food,
yes,
right?
exactly, buying stuff.
Yeah.
This is a fun one, which we've mentioned before on the podcast, but this idea of stay out of the middle of the supermarket. Shop on the perimeter of the store.
Shop the perimeter.
Real food tends to be on the outer edge of the store near the loading docks where it can be replaced with fresh foods when it goes bad. Oh, that's right. Loading docks, of course.
Yeah, I do tend to only go into the middle of the store for staples now. And usually it's really targeted, whereas I used to wander the aisles. So I have made that change without noticing. I just thought about it now.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is a fun one. Don't eat anything that won't eventually rot.
Oh, yeah.
Really good. And then has like there are exceptions like honey, he says. But,
yes, honey and probably vinegar. Right,
yeah,
right.
But he's talking about things like Twinkies.
Ho-hos. Twinkies is the classic thing that won't rot. Is there anything else? Well, that cheese stuff you like, I think.
Oh, God. Yes, that orange cheese dip. I'm sure that would last for a good long time. Good bomb shelter material, I'm sure.
I'm sure you're right. We could put a wick in it and light it. Like, it feels like paraffin to me.
It could be eaten and provide light.
New shimmer is a floor wax and a dessert topping. Do you remember that? It was an old Saturday Night Live sketch.
Oh, God. I don't remember that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, funny. And then this is where I got my idea about leaving the table hungry. He suggested always leave the table a little bit hungry. Many cultures have rules that you stop eating before you are full. And in the German culture, they say, tie off the sack before it's full. So, and then let's see. Remember when eating between meal. It says families traditionally.
Rick, if I did that, I would only ever need to eat 5 bites of food.
Oh my God.
That is the thing that bums me out the most about this whole conversation is how little I actually need to eat.
Yeah.
And it's just heartbreaking. Like that one time I made fun of you on the last session about how everything made you sad about limiting all the food. Well, I'm with you, you know. I'm feeling that today.
Totally. It's a valid point, Kate. It's a valid point.
All right.
Because
go on.
particularly, when you hit a certain age bracket, man, you need less and less. Mm-hmm. Don't buy food where you buy your gasoline.
What about Costco?
Oh, you're right. Now Harris Teeter has their own gasoline supply. He says, this is his statistic, in the U.S., 20% of food is eaten in the car.
Wow. That just speaks to way too much time people are spending commuting.
Yes, doesn't it?
Wow.
And my favorite, this is where you and I think, excel. Enjoy meals with the people you love. Families traditionally ate together around the table, not a TV. At regular meal times, it was a tradition. And that's something that you and I talked about off podcasts about our holidays, is this concept of, when you really spend your time with the core people in your life and the difference it makes and how it just makes you a healthier human being. Because it's so easy for all of your time, particularly around holiday time, to sort of get sucked up or drawn into other things and other people that maybe aren't your closest. And it's weird because for this last holiday season, I was really just craving being around, as you said, the heart people, right? The people that are really the closest to you. And it's sort of one of the strongest years I've had for that.
Yay.
Well, we want to know what you think, people.
Yes. Do you have any rules? Do you have any suggestions for our rules? Do you have anything you'd like to hear us talk about on the podcast?
Do you just make rules? Do you keep rules? Do you break them? How do you deal with them? So as always, thanks for listening. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and Happy New Year.